Therefore, to introduce Giedrimas Jeglinskas. On. Goodbye.
All right. Well, good morning. A lot of friends, old and new. It's great to be back in the U.S. First time in LA, as I was saying, wonderful, wonderful city, and looking forward to getting to know both the community and the place. It is such an honor to be here at the Baltic American Freedom League conference. And really, what an incredible time to be here. The world seems to be spinning around faster and faster. I think what we see and feel in that part of the world, in our homeland part of the world, sometimes feel very different than probably somewhere else, being far away. But it's truly the pace of change. I think it does feel tectonic. Now, it does sometimes feel that we are in a, I would say, massive storm, and there's nothing to hold on to. It's just, you're in the eye of the hurricane and you're just flying there. But it's a scary feeling. But here, of course, in LA, together with Baltic brothers and sisters, I think we can feel that sense of unity, and I think that sense of unity is really what is important. I think for us to really survive any storm, any hurricane. So it's really good to have everyone here. Now, we're far from the existential backgrounds of Ukraine and Eastern Europe, very far, and yet so close because the world remains connected. Now, we can complain of globalization. Some have very vocally complained about globalization. Sure, it has caused some uneven distribution of outcomes, especially in the traditional West, meaning in America and Western Europe. But we cannot deny that we're connected politically, economically, technologically, and through our values. As the Deacon Rains said, shared values, that's what builds trust. So it's absolutely, can only agree with that. The Baltic states, of course, have been incredible winners of globalization. And I think if we compare where we were in 1990 and where we are now, the progress has been tremendous. I don't know if any other country has made that kind of progress under democracy, right? There's some say, well, we look at China, how the GDP per capita has grown. Yes, under authoritarian sort of lack of freedom rules, sure. Under democracy, I think what we have accomplished, again, thanks to a lot of people who have been working very hard in Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, but also thanks to the communities that. So if I were to judge, the region remains dynamic economically, clear-eyed, and determined geopolitically. We have very clear, the true north is very clear when you're in Lithuania, Latvia, or Estonia. By the way, in other Eastern Europe as well. That clear ability to see things clear-eyed and being determined geopolitically is very important in today's world. Now, the connection to America has always I must plug in some historic truths from our national perspective, though I think they will be familiar to others, to Latvians and Estonians as well. So Lithuania is one of the staunchest supporters of America in the world. There's no doubt about it. Lithuanians have fought for America in the War of Independence. Tadeusz Kościuszko comes to mind first and foremost, but there are many, many others. But people had arrived in America to help build this wonderful country, to help make it successful, powerful, to make it great. We've all come here, our forefathers came here, and this is what we're all making here. Lithuanian people will never forget the Sumner-Wells Declaration of 1940, in which the United States refused to recognize the occupation of the Baltic states, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. For decades, the Wells Declaration has served as a beacon of hope for many Central Eastern Europeans fighting for freedom and independence. And we remain grateful to America for sticking with this important principle, which serves as a basis for a doctrine that a mightier country cannot just simply overtake a weaker country. This has been a rule for many, many years now, and we hope it will remain so in a foreseeable future. Thank you for that support. More than 50 countries followed in refusing to recognize the occupation. And that's leadership. That's American leadership. This is what we all hope for, and I think this is what America represents. Now, the 2018 Crimea Declaration, signed by our friend Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, then under the first Trump administration, really was equally important, really signifying that Crimea is also part of Ukraine, cannot be taken apart. Now, it's a signal to the world that America does not cave to dictators, nor does it align with war criminals. And I think this is what we want to continue. Now, the freedom that Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia have regained in the 1990s is also an outcome of the end of the Cold War, which the US had won decisively. So thanks to the US leadership, thanks to the US-led victory by the West, we have regained our independence. So thank you for that. Upon returning to the family of democracies and freedom-loving nations, there was never, ever a doubt that we would not support or not be on the side of America. We'll always be on the side of America when we do the right things. I was at West Point when 9/11 hit in 2001, pivoting a generation of officers and soldiers toward a novel global war on terror, many thousands dead in a subsequent 20 years. And we, the boss, were there too with America, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, fighting together, defending the interests of America, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and many, many allies. And guess what? If we're to believe history, and I think we should, unfortunately, conflicts will continue. The wars will be happening in the future. That's what history has shown us. And I think I'll be Lithuanian. I believe many, many allies will stand with the United States again, wherever we are. Now, going to, thank you. Going to today, so there's talk today, nowadays, that we are at some sort of fork in the road, where the US and Europe go our separate ways. We're somehow splitting. Now, such a fragmentation would be absolutely disastrous for America and the Europeans. Moreover, such talk is premature and serves to divide the broader West. This should not be allowed. Now, one thing is clear at this point. We have a president who is able, with a press of a button, or a move of a finger, to impact geopolitics, trade, commerce, markets, culture, and so much more. It is a powerful role, which must tilt, I hope, should tilt us Europeans to bandwagon with America rather than stand against America. So the future of the transatlantic link, in my humble opinion, is more connected than separate. So whatever it is, whatever we hear, I think, and in Lithuania is very, and I think in many parts of Eastern Europe, or generally outside of the US, we see that, you know, look, America is abandoning us. They're betraying, running away. I think there's nothing further from the truth. I think it's really, what's happening now in geopolitics, it should be a call for action that we actually need to be working more together, strengthening that transatlantic alliance. So protecting national interest is a crucial priority, both for the President Trump and the leaders in the West, in the Western democracies, like in Lithuania and Europe. Europeans might not like the tone with which we are being dealt with, but I'm convinced that the so-called cold shower is very much needed. Europe needs to wake up. Now, rather than, thank you. Lots of applause. I never, in my short political career, but thank you. So rather than blaming others, we, the Europeans, need to start doing the right thing. It starts with defense spending, which for Europe to stay relevant must be doubled. This is where we are. America will be spending close to $1 trillion next year. If you combine all of Europe, we're about less than half a trillion. So you can see that scale differential. So we really need to be doubling that, and I think that's what's needed. So as I like to point out, Europe has woken up, but it hasn't gotten out of bed yet. If Europe wants to be a global power, if the EU wants to be at a negotiating table, which we often complain, why are we not at a negotiating table for various wars or conflicts? Well, military power is essential. So hence, we must invest in military capabilities. But of course, it's more than that. There's just so much that Europe needs to pick up, and we're trying to do what we can. Shallow capital markets coupled with lack of political will forbid European sovereigns to access funding for the required transformation of the continental economy. Mario Draghi report on competitiveness, maybe it's not well known. Draghi used to be, he's a big shot in the European Union. President Niinisto from Finland brief on security, and recently published our very own Andrius Kubilius, our former Prime Minister of Lithuania. He's written a book they called White Book report on defense, are full of solid recommendations. Yet the recommendations need to be followed through. Words must become actions. So the path for Europe is challenging but not hopeless. So here I can plug in something that comes from our Baltic friends, from Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. As the Balts, we have what to say and to show. Not only have we been right about Russia and its true intentions, that has been, I think, that has been confirmed, but all of us have recently announced massive increases in defense spending, above 5% of GDP. The funds will allow all three Baltic states to strengthen our defense capabilities. Now, speaking of Lithuania specifically, we're establishing a full-scale army division and building a massive infrastructure to accommodate German Army Brigade, which should be coming to our shores by end of 2027. We're exiting. Not everybody likes that, but I got to say this: we're exiting the Ottawa Treaty on landmines to be able to strengthen our border with a revanchist, imperialist Russia. Of course, we shall continue to invest in host nation support for U.S. Army's Armor Battalion currently stationed near Vilnius. We're also grateful to President Trump and his wise decisions to deploy U.S. Army unit in Lithuania during his first term. Our job remains to create conditions for U.S. military units to continue to build readiness in Lithuania, and we'll invest whatever it takes to help U.S. military units to build readiness. Now, I know we had, and it's great to have a family of Staff Sergeant Franco. We had a tragic accident which left 4 U.S. Army soldiers dead. The 5-day search exercise has rallied the public, with every Lithuanian glued to TV screens and social media, praying for the soldiers and their families. During the send-off, Lithuanians have lined the streets with flowers and with tears in our eyes. The message was clear. U.S. soldiers are our soldiers, and we will treat them just like our soldiers. We defend NATO perimeter together and are grateful for their selfless service. The Baltic states have disconnected from the Russian electricity grid, so that dependence which we have, absolutely a milestone that took us, 35 years to get out of there, almost like a second Independence Day, given how important energy security is to our daily lives. Now, we continue to support Ukraine's fight because it is also our fight. Since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2024, the Baltic states have committed 1.7% of our GDP for Ukraine rearmament and other support. To end, I wanted to reiterate something that Tony has mentioned in his speech, but also last night we had a conversation with the Newton and others, really about the message that the Baltic diasporas in the U.S. play an incredibly important role in keeping our country safe. The link that you built with the members of Congress, whether it's at the state level or a national level, is absolutely crucial. And the war not the war, but the fight that many of you have fought during the Cold War, it's not over, apparently. It's not over. That works. We need to continue with this work. I think we have an immense gratefulness to the generations of our Lithuanian and Latvian and Estonian communities here who have able to send letters to the congressmen in the 80s, and the Olympics, right, forcing Soviets to kind of withdraw from the LA Olympics. But many others, somebody actually have slipped that ribbon called I love Lithuanians to Ronald Reagan, right? It's a famous photo. Somebody did it. That's bold. It's bold. But this is something that we really need now, because the world has not stopped. The history has not ended. As a neighbor from Stanford University, Francis Fukuyama, once said, end of history, right? This is over. All peace, all liberalism, capitalism, winning everything. No, it's not. Russia is back with aggressiveness. We see many other conflicts sort of simmering, ready to explode. So in this world, protecting our interest, our freedom, really, because we're still small countries in the eastern part of Europe. There's a big and real enemy, the Mordor, if you will, the Mordor in a Lord of the Rings kind of fashion to say it. And we need all of your support. And of course, we need the younger generation to go study politics, to go do internships on the Hill, get to know the congressmen, the senators, and one day become members of Congress. Eventually, go serve in the U.S. Army, understand, or the military, and understand where things are, and also be those vocal supporters of our cause. I think we're all in this together. We all cherish and value our homeland. It's a beautiful country, and we want to make sure that Lithuania survives there for centuries. So we need this level of energy as we've had in the 80s now. And so I really would urge the new generation and to step up. I think the threats to our freedom and independence are real, and America remains the most powerful country in the world. If we want to try to influence a country, America is the country to influence, because still there's no alternative in terms of global power to America. You know, we can, yes, of course, we need to work the UK Parliament, we need to work the Bundestag in Germany and many others, but America remains the sole dominant power, and if we can have that, some sort of influence, call it lobbying or whatever we call it, it's absolutely essential. So let's help forge the transatlantic link that strengthens all of us. So I'll stop here. I don't know how much time I was given. Maybe I took too long or too short. I'm happy to answer questions, but thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Can you hear me? Okay, good. Okay. Also, make sure everyone has their cell phones on just turned off, silent, or vibrate. So it's our conversation. Any questions from?
Yeah. Happy to just entertain any questions or comments.
What is being done right now in the Baltic states to kind of watch over, the growing hybrid threat that is being waged by Russia in the Baltic Sea, with the undersea cables, whatnot?
Well, I think, first of all, at this point, our intelligence and the intelligence of NATO countries is very clear that Russia does not have capabilities to attack conventionally a NATO country. But we have seen in the past year now, I would say, an increase in the so-called, whatever we call them. I don't really call it hybrid, because it's hybrid is sort of assumes that it's no kinetic element. I think we've seen a lot of sort of also kinetic elements in these attacks, whether that's cable cutting or really sabotage and diversion. So there's some attempts to explode the warehouses, explode the airplanes, the GPS jamming. There's a lot of that kind of activity that's intended to lower support of the population for Ukraine, populations in the Baltic states, and actually in broader West, support for Ukraine. That's the original quest that they're trying to do, the Russians. And then, of course, really just to reduce reduce the trust in our institutions, in our society, to really tarnish, tarnish the whole concept of democracy. So Russia has been very active in that, and they're continuing to step up these activities. Now, I mean, to respond to cable cutting is it's not a simple thing. It looks simple, just the cable has been cut. Then you catch the vessel, and they say, well, I didn't know anything, but I was dragging my anchor for 200 miles. I don't know, like, is that on purpose or not on purpose? I'm not, so there's ways to look at it, and it have no affiliation with Russia, but we know this is a shadow fleet. So Russia, because of the sanctions, they're using these outdated, technically unacceptable sort of, vessels, and the crews that are there, they're not trained. But it's, it's something we need to take care of. And of course, NATO has sent the so-called Enhanced Vigilance Activity, EVA, called Baltic Sentry to the Baltic Sea. It's been led by the SACEUR, Supreme Allied Commander Europe, and it's supported by Joint Expeditionary Force assets. So it's NATO is doing its part there, but it is not an easy task. It's just we have to be vigilant. We have to be careful what's happening. Any other questions?
Yeah. It's from the web.
This is from the web. How and why is your English so good? Can you expand on the practical and political reasons the Europeans are timely with rhetoric, but not actions?
Yeah, well, that's
And then there's a second question of what kind of koks ryšys with the Lithuanians, Latvians, Estonians in Canada?
in Canada. I wouldn't know too much about Canada. I know it's still a separate country, right? I know somebody from Canada. I think they would take offense at that comment, perhaps. But I'm glad it's a separate country. It's a beautiful country, of course, Canada. But regarding so the question was, sorry, Danuta, the question was, second question, what was that? But after the English one.
No.
Give him the list.
Yeah, I'll just. Expand on the practical political reasons the Europeans are. Yeah. So Europe. Okay. So we all love Europe, and I think we all come from Europe. I mean, we all I think appreciate what Europe is. I don't know what the actual reasons are for that, but I think Europe has gotten used to in the past 35 years that defense and military realm are the domains of the United States. This is what the U.S. does. It spends a lot on, I mean, obviously, at post-Cold War, U.S. defense spending also has plummeted significantly, but not as much as in Europe. And we see that, and probably we could go country by country, whether you look at Germany that has been dependent on Russian gas and paying money to Russia rather than, and being at 1% of GDP for defense, which is sort of unacceptable to anybody. So, but that's where I feel like having Donald Trump in the first term, his rhetoric, his actions have allowed Europeans to pick up on that significantly. And I know the exact number, that's 60 billion or a couple $100 billion or euros per year has been allocated for defense in Europe. Now, this is going even higher. I think so. So I think what Donald Trump is doing is, despite people don't like his rhetoric and the way he talks, maybe, but it's the actual impact on European strength. What we need to have on the European power has been immense, and I think I would say we should be grateful to President Trump and his actions in this respect. So. Anything else? Yes, sir.
First of all, I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. The latest statistics from Pew Statistics and also RAND Corporation shows two things. The plurality.
Okay. The plurality of the American public, still supports Ukraine in its struggle against Russia. The plurality, okay? Number two, the plurality of the American public supports NATO. But it is our job to make sure that this perpetuates and we grow more in need of getting more people in the United States to support, because it is to the interest of the United States.
Absolutely.
And the question here, of course, is in terms of numbers, I understand that the vast majority of weapon systems that are being utilized by NATO are being manufactured still in the United States.
Well, first of all, I think regarding the what you said about the plurality of Americans supporting Ukraine, I think I've looked at the same polls. 60% of Americans support Ukraine, 2% of Americans support Russia. Of course, Russia is an autocracy, a dictatorship, and America has been founded on an idea of freedom. The allegiance you read the allegiance, right? Pledge of Allegiance. It's about a freedom. It's the only country that's based out of an idea, not nation state like Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and many others. It's not a nation state. America is a country about an idea of freedom. So of course, there's an inherent dislike and antipathy towards dictatorships like Russia. So I think there's, in the long game, I think there's politically it's unwinnable proposition to say that we're going to align with Russia. So whatever's happening there, I think will eventually will be done steadfast. But on a weapons that we're procuring, again, this comes back to the Europe's inability to produce these weapons fast enough. Now, again, a lot of investments are going into European defense industry, and it's an exciting field. If you ever see that's an exciting field to be in if you're in business, defense industry, because Europe needs to build the proper capabilities. But U.S. still has Lockheed's and Raytheon's, and it also has the new companies. Whether we talked with AVEX yesterday, but also from Saronic to Anduril to Palantir, so many of them. These are all by the Lord of the Rings references, I think. Saronic, but it's a lot of new technology companies that only in America they exist, because of course they're based on AI, and we know where AI is. AI is in the U.S. because there have been these massive multi-$100 billion investments here in a AI infrastructure. So still, America remains that preeminent technological military defense industry power. And in defense industry, if you look at the market, it's not a free market. Defense industry is not a free market. It's a market determined by the balance of global power. And so if we agree that U.S. is the major military power, it will have that advantage. So I think we don't want to lose that. I think that's where I think that the connections between Europe and America need to be happening, that defense industry level. So.
Okay.
This question's a little off. All right, so I should read the question, right? Freedom-loving, that's in parentheses. It is a dissertation, yeah.
If you have any questions, we have cards on the table in there.
Polyamorous, is that what having many partners?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I don't. It's a long one, but look, I think it's about I think where the gist of this question goes back to something that, by the way, I feel like in Lithuania, we had an election I'll get to this. So in October, we had a question on, we had an election for parliament 6 months ago. The so-called Conservative Party lost because they looked at the issues that are, okay, it's nothing against that. It's just saying that, well, there's transgender aspects, there's all this, the wokeness. So they were very much focused on those aspects. And they seemingly forgot about the common people. And I think that's why they lost, because then the other parties turned and I think the same thing may have happened here, that the Democrats have really not focused on a broader demographic. They focus on the coastal elites, what they say. So I think Europe is turning in the same way, the way that U.S. has turned. They call it vibe shift here. That vibe shift is very much prevalent now everywhere. Is good or bad? I'm not here to judge good or bad. I'm just saying that the trend is there, and I think this is going to happen in the realm of migration for sure. Europe, which was very open to migrants, now is becoming very much more careful, I would say, about it. Still, migration is important. We need migrants. We need people to come. Well, we need people to come to U.S. We need people to come to Europe because we need the workforce, and it's a great thing. But I think there's a general trend towards that vibe shift is real. So I'm not going to talk about polyamorous Catholic stuff that's in the question, but I hope you get where I'm getting to.
Okay. No, I can read these. Yeah. Please, when you're writing them, make it legible for me. Okay. So I really like this question because I used to be in an oil company. Can President Trump's drill baby drill initiative lower world oil prices world oil prices low enough to ruin Russia's finances, which are derived greatly from its oil revenues?
Well, that's definitely a question for some American energy analysts, but I would say, drill, baby, drill is a great slogan. Now, somebody has to do it. Somebody actually has to drill. Now, if you say that the whole intent is to lower the prices, and you're at whatever level you are, and you think, well, I'm going to now invest in this drill, baby, drill, and the prices are going to continue to plummet. I don't know if that's a great economic proposition. I don't know if it's a great commercial business proposition. Now, they need to decide probably whether that's the business will decide. They will do what it takes. But I think, I'm not sure Donald Trump is thinking about, in such terms that you need lower oil price to squash Russia. It's probably a secondary element, it's like a secondary effect, I would think.
Any questions on the YouTube land? Not? Okay. Okay. USA stopped Hitler in World War II. Why does USA not stop Russia now? And what evidence is there that Russia has nuclear power?
I was at a conference with experts from Japan and Asia Pacific, and they're thinking very interesting. The Japanese thinking is very interesting, I think, in this respect. So the Japanese expert has said Russia has been using nuclear weapons in this war. It has used them. Like, wow, no, but it's used them to deter. Really, they are using nuclear weapons. Whatever we think, I'm not even sure they're meant to be used literally, but if you we're able to deter or force self-deterrence on a great power like America, that's a major success. And I think they have been doing that for a while now. And I think first and foremost, what we're saying in Eastern Europe is that, well, we should not be afraid of that kind of blackmail. Russia will always try to blackmail, and that they will use nuclear, and they were going to put nuclear forces on alert or whatever. So that's what they've been doing that for decades, and they will continue to do that. And now I think we can stop Putin, but Putin can only be stopped through power, through strength. And if we demonstrate weakness, he's only going to be empowered by that. And I think with Ukraine, it's nothing from the truth, nothing further from the truth that Russia is winning this war. It's not winning. The economy is in a doldrums, and it's a bad situation there, manpower wise. They've captured 19% of the Ukraine territory. This was supposed to be a 3-day war, 3.5 years ago. So Ukraine has shown that resilience, and only had we given Ukraine proper weapons, proper military might, I think we probably would be in a much different situation. But that's where the politics come into play, and we had the previous administration, we have current administration. But again, the whole world looks at America. It still looks at America, what it will do. So we'll see.
Is the German army presence to be long-term?
So on Germans, so we were excited about Germany to be coming to Lithuania, the brigade, which is about 5,000 troops, including the tank assets and many air defense assets. It's a significant milestone in our ability to deter through defense. So we're able to have a proper German brigade. We're going to have our own division. We have a U.S. battalion plus soldiers there. So it's a massive increase in our capability to defend. Now the idea is to have a permanent presence, but of course these days what's permanent and what's not permanent is decided politically. So we're grateful to Germany. We're obviously we're investing massive amounts, but I don't know, about €1.5 billion in our infrastructure for German army to come in. We're buying tanks. We're buying from Germany. We're buying other things. So it's a huge upscaling of the relationship with Germany. And Germany is, I think, if we say that Europe does not have a leader now, who's the leader in Germany? I think in Europe, I think we want to see Germany lead. And of course, it's up to Germany. They have a bad history. That history still haunts them. And that's it sort of disables them from really acting like leaders in this respect. So, but it's a good story. Well, squash Russia, of course. I'm not sure that what would have him simple? Oh, before within the cross constraint. Armenians, Chinese, Japan. Yeah. Well, regarding the question regarding the citizenship. So Lithuania does allow dual citizenship to certain through certain sort of exceptions. In Constitution, it's not in the Constitution, unfortunately. But we do have now we do worry about, of course, because we're as a small nation. You need to be worried about the migrant flows and ability of sort of people coming in. It's again economically we need migrants because we're a shrinking nation too. But I think in terms of citizenship, definitely Russian, Belarusian citizens, Central Asian citizens, they're probably it's a long shot for them to gain Lithuanian citizenship. But same with Chinese and of course North Korea, Iran, and it's all axis of evil. What do you call these days? Japanese now. We love Japan. Everybody loves Japan. Japanese? You mean Armenians? The Chinese? Well, with China, again, our foreign policy, I think, in my opinion, now, Consul General can correct me. I think our foreign policy, well, we don't even have an independent foreign. We can say we have an independent foreign policy, but again, we're stuck. We're together with allies. So if our foreign policy, I think, needs to go with alignment with the U.S. foreign policy. Now, of course, except some things that are happening in the UN, but that's UN votes that we've seen recently. But okay.
Okay. The U.S. spends money on foreign assistance and for our allies in the world. How does Lithuania use defense assistance such as the Baltic Security Initiative?
Well, first of all, we're absolutely grateful for the Baltic Security Initiative that the U.S. Congress, and of course, U.S. Congress means the American people who have enabled the congressional leaders to agree on the so-called Baltic BSI, the Baltic Security Initiative packages for many years now. And this has really allowed us to build our capabilities by using certain funds from America, but also to procure things that are made in America, which then really creates, of course, I think it's a good political message as well. If we buy JLTV produced in Wisconsin, so Wisconsin, as the jobs are created in Wisconsin and so forth. So I think it's a win-win for all, and I think it strengthens the relationship. It makes it more productive, and it makes it real, and those it's transactional, but also enhances our cooperation. So we'll continue. Well, as long as the BSI lives on, we'll continue to help American people.
What are the challenges that prevent American defense companies build defense manufacturing facilities in Lithuania? How these challenges can be solved, in your opinion?
Well, I think we're very open to U.S. manufacturing coming to Lithuania, not just manufacturing, but really assemblies, research and development, whether software or hardware, we're all open. I think we do have certain programs, they call it Green Corridor, which really speeds up the approval process. So you can get land very fast, you can get access to communications and kind of what's needed, electricity and other things very rapidly. So I think we're ready to cooperate. And I think because Lithuania will spend, by the way, looking at our current budget projections in the next 10 years, we'll spend over 50 billion euros on defense. And I think we need to be looking in those terms, because if we say, yes, sure, it's 4 billion a year now, it looks okay, but it doesn't, I don't know if it's big enough scale for, let's say, American producers. But if we look at that 10-year horizon, as we, I think, should be looking at it, there's 50 billion a year in 10 years. And the same for Latvia, same for Estonia, by the way. So and Poland is probably 10 times larger. That's lights on, so that's my time, I guess.
No, 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 no.
Yeah, so we're open business for sure.
What weapon systems does Lietuva need to deter?
Well, in my opinion, air defense is crucial. Short range, middle range, medium range, long range. There's discussions regarding the Patriot systems, which are very expensive, but that's something we need to be procuring. Again, we need to be looking at these things with our neighbors regionally. Air defense is regional. Russia looks at us regionally. So when we say, well, we're going to invade Lithuania, we're going to capture Lithuania, it's not about that. I think if Russia goes against us, they'll go against all three of us. That's just how it is. Russia does not recognize these sort of borders between countries. So that should force us to think about or rethink the way we do air defense. But air defense is absolutely critical, as well as other asymmetrical technologies, I would say, because they can muster hundreds of tanks or thousands of tanks by our borders. The question is, how do we deter that? And that's electronic warfare, that's satellite communication. This is so much more in asymmetric technology that needs to be done there. But air defense is the first and foremost thing, as well as because I've mentioned in my speech, we're exiting the Ottawa Convention against landmines, anti-personnel landmines. It sounds very bad, but it's good because it protects our borders. Russia's been using those in Ukraine, and what we want to do is really build that proper infrastructure in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and Finland as well, a border with Russia, that we have those landmines that support the other barrier, the physical barrier that prevents Russia from entering our country.
Is there any question from YouTube land? Okay. Okay. Just these are the last two questions, and we'll wrap it up. First question: do you see value in reforming the NATO alliance to allow for the inclusion of a democratic nation such as Australia, New Zealand, and South Korea, and Japan?
Well, we do have, so at NATO, when I was serving for Jens Stoltenberg for 3 years, we've increased the cooperation with, they call it AP4, Asia Pacific 4, so South Korea, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. I would include probably Philippines and Taiwan as other potential countries to be part of that. NATO will never be expanding into Asia Pacific because it's not meant, I think now the focus of the work at NATO is making sure we're going back to the original mission, which is to deter and defend. Now we've really expanded to a lot of different unrelated areas. So I think what's happening now with the DoD, it will be happening similar things at NATO, whether we like it or not. You need to go back to the original mission, war fighting, real hardcore military operations. But cooperation with AP4, Asia Pacific, is absolutely crucial because whether we believe it or not, potentially the next fight or the next conflict can be in Asia Pacific. So we have to be prepared. And I think whether, if US is somehow, hopefully not, but somehow dragged into the conflict in the Asia Pacific, NATO will be there with the US. We will be there with the US. We're all going to be there with the US. It's all of our fight.
Okay, last question. Can you explain why it is so important for Americans without Baltic heritage to take an interest in Baltic relations and make a stand in support and solidarity with the Baltic countries?
Well, I'm about finished with my op-ed. I called it Liberty or Death. So when Patrick Henry in 1775 at the Second Virginia Convention has called it Liberty or Death, give me liberty or give me death, right? That was it was very clear by binomial choice. Are you with the colonialists or you're with the monarchists, right? The Brits, right? So you choose liberty or you choose death. And I think what we have chosen in our history, Lithuanians, Latvians, Estonians, by the way, Ukrainians as well, I'll show you right now as we speak, is that we have chosen, we have the same choice, liberty or death, and we choose liberty. Or we'll defend and we'll die for our country. That's very much, I think the psyche, I think that's why we're so, I think in a way we're similar, because we value freedom, we value independence, we value, all those things that are enshrined in the U.S. Constitution and the Pledge of Allegiance and all those other mythologies in the U.S. So we're shared values, as Deacon has said, shared values.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.